Gregory Isaacs stole this song.
Rumors them spreading, claim that I sense him with planting.
And what happened next will shock you. The Mighty Diamonds were betrayed, the producer stayed silent, and reggae history was rewritten. Why did no one stop him? The truth behind rumors is darker than you think. Stick around. The final twist will leave you questioning everything you know about music, loyalty, and legacy. At 56 Slipe Road, Kingston, Gussy had just finished designing his dream recording studio. It wasn't just cement and wires. It was the temple for a new digital sound, a new frontier that Jamaican music was daring to enter. On a regular afternoon, the hum of work was interrupted by the unmistakable growl of a motorcycle. It was Gregory Isaacs, effortlessly cool as ever, no appointment, no pretense. That's how he rolled, authentic and untamed. The relationship between Gussy and Gregory wasn't simple. They had clashed, bickered, and embraced like brothers bound by music. But this moment was different. In Gussy's hand was a song, not written by Gregory Isaacs, not even for him. The lyrics had been penned by Carlton Hines, and they were meant for the Mighty Diamonds. It was supposed to be their song. Donald Tabby Shaw, Fitzroy Bunny Simpson, and Lloyd Judge Ferguson, three voices harmonizing like roots touching the same soil, were slated to carry the message of rumors to the world. It made sense. The Diamonds were rooted in consciousness and upliftment, and the lyrics reflected a plea, a defense against false accusations, and an assertion of identity. But when Gregory Isaacs walked into that room and heard the melody, something changed. According to Gussy Clark, Isaacs didn't just hear a song. He recognized his own story in it. The reggae world had already begun whispering about Gregory Isaacs. Legal troubles, illegal substance, strange behaviors. Media headlines weren't kind, and fans were beginning to wonder if the man behind Night Nurse was unraveling. So when the lyrics of Rumors, which denounced false claims and projected a sense of misunderstood nobility, fell into his lap, it didn't feel like theft. It felt like prophecy. Isaacs, without hesitation, claimed the mic and made it his own. And in that very moment, the fate of the song changed forever. But behind the transformation was a wound. The Mighty Diamonds, who were actively working with Gussy Clark at the time, suddenly found themselves sidelined from a song that was, in spirit, theirs. Clark made no secret of his admiration for Gregory Isaacs, claiming that the depth and texture of the song now seemed tailored to Isaacs' voice. But one cannot help but ask, at what cost? Did the producer allow personal affinity to overshadow fairness? Did Gregory Isaacs, knowingly or unknowingly, take from the plate of brothers who had stood with reggae since the days of Right Time and I Need a Roof? As rumors hit the airwaves, the controversy swelled. The timing was almost cinematic. Gregory Isaacs was being dragged through public opinion for alleged drug offenses. And here was a song that proclaimed innocence and resistance to judgment. He sang about being misread because of his fashion, brass tennis, rental cars, gold chains. But behind the metaphors was a cry for understanding. Isaacs insisted he wasn't planting Cincy, wasn't involved in what people thought. He was a don in Jetland, a party starter, a man misunderstood by a system trained to profile and prosecute based on appearance. And whether it was written for him or not, it fit him like second skin. However, that's where the lines blur. Gussy Clark was quick to clarify in later interviews that Gregory Isaacs didn't write a word of Rumors. Yet when the public consumed it, when the world watched him perform it, and when DJs spun the track on repeat, few could separate the artist from the author. The song became part of his legend. It wasn't just a tune, it was seen as his personal defense, his public diary and melody. And in that interpretation, the Mighty Diamonds were erased. The origin story was buried under the weight of Isaac's charisma and controversy. Technically, Rumors marked a new direction in Jamaican music production. Clark didn't rely on lucky accidents like the iconic sling tongue rhythm. He engineered Rumors with surgical precision. It was a product of research, hardware experimentation, and a vision to move beyond the popular MCI brand that most producers were stuck on. Clark invested in Otari recorders, Mech-Tag matchless mixers, EX Century 500s, and Meyer HD-1 monitors. The studio became a vault of innovation. And Rumors, crafted with musicians like Cleveland Clevie Brown, Robbie Lynn, and Danny Brown, stood as its crown jewel. Even the recording engineer, Courtney Mikey Small, brought a finesse that elevated the final sound beyond its competition. This wasn't just another rhythm. This was a revolution. But history has a funny way of choosing its heroes. Rumors exploded beyond Jamaica, crossing into North America and Britain, giving Gregory Isaacs one of his biggest late career boosts. Clark wasn't done. He doubled down on the rhythm, creating Music Works Showcase 88, recording nearly a dozen artists over the same beat. J.C. Lodge sang Telephone Love, Lady G delivered Nuff Respect, and yes, the Mighty Diamonds were given a slice, too. But it no longer felt like theirs. It felt like an afterthought. The rhythm had already been branded by Gregory Isaacs, and no matter how tight their harmonies were, they couldn't reclaim what had already been claimed in the hearts of fans. The fallout was never openly discussed. Neither the Mighty Diamonds nor Gregory Isaacs publicly accused one another. There were no diss tracks, no press wars, just silence. And in that silence, assumptions festered. Did Isaacs even know the song was meant for them? Was he aware of the disappointment that followed? Yet for many who knew the trio, the sting lingered. They had weathered the political turbulence of 1970s Jamaica, sung against apartheid, and stayed rooted in Rastafarian values. To be blindsided by a song that could have reignited their flame was more than just a professional disappointment. It was a personal wound. Meanwhile, Isaac's star continued to flicker with both brilliance and chaos. His addiction, once a whisper, became a roaring fire. He battled the demon head-on, even calling a legal substance the most expensive college he had ever attended. He claimed to have learned from it, though the cost was steep: his health, his voice, and almost his legacy. Still, the cool ruler kept returning. In 1993, he partnered with Beres Hammond for One Good Turn, and the reggae world applauded. Then came Midnight Confidential, a Philip Fadis Burrell production that showed Isaacs wasn't ready to be forgotten. His African Museum label gave rise to new voices even while his own vocal cords faltered. In 1997, Simply Red reintroduced the world to Night Nurse, giving it a pop crossover that some purists frowned upon but millions adored. Gregory Isaacs, for better or worse, had become reggae's tragic hero. By the 2000s, the physical toll of his drug use had become visible. Yet in 2005, he re-emerged with Brand New Me, an album that critics lauded as his phoenix moment. Reggae Vibes even declared, "Gregory is back." The album captured a man who had walked through fire and returned, scarred but unbowed. In 2009, he followed it with My Kind of Lady, and a year later, dropped Isaacs Meets Isaac, with Zimbabwe's King Isaac, securing another Grammy nomination. But on October 25, 2010, the reggae world dimmed. Gregory Isaacs died of lung cancer in his London home, leaving behind not just a catalog of music, but a library of unanswered questions. One of them still lingers. Did he knowingly step on the Mighty Diamonds' path? Or was he just another artist caught in the chaotic shuffle of creativity, commerce, and coincidence? Even in death, Gregory Isaacs stirred conversation. As the reggae fraternity gathered at the National Indoor Sports Center on November 20th to pay their final respects, memories of his voice, his swagger, and yes, his scandals, filled the air like incense. The Mighty Diamonds were there too. But while the world mourned Isaacs as a fallen icon, there were still those in the corners of Jamaican music who whispered about rumors and the shadows it cast over loyalty. If Isaacs was the voice of the track, the Mighty Diamonds were its lost heartbeat. Long after the funeral, discussions resurfaced about what rumors could have been if it had stayed in the hands of its intended vocalists. The Mighty Diamonds were no strangers to anthems. Their harmonies could slice through steel, their words rooted in fire and prophecy. Carlton Hines had written the song with a group voice in mind, a chorus of resistance, a layered testimony. It was imagined as a declaration from a community, not just one man. But when Gregory Isaacs took it on, it became a soliloquy, a singular cry instead of a collective voice. Fans debated endlessly. Some argued Isaacs gave the song emotional weight it might not have had otherwise, that his embattled life brought truth to the lyrics. Others insisted that the Diamonds would have delivered the message with deeper integrity. One thing was certain: no one who heard rumors ever forgot it. And perhaps that was the truest tragedy, that in its brilliance, it also became a monument to missed opportunity, leaving one trio sidelined while one man stood in the spotlight alone. Gussy Clark remained unapologetic. He viewed the decision not as betrayal, but as chemistry. Gregory Isaacs had chemistry with rumors. It was undeniable, but Clark also understood the bitterness. He admitted in interviews that the Mighty Diamonds were not sidelined deliberately. He tried to find ways to include them in the showcase, but it never quite made up for the initial exclusion. In the business of music, sometimes the right voice arrives at the wrong time, and the right time comes without warning. The story of Rumors isn't just about a song. It's about the weight of perception. The Diamonds continued to tour, to record, to preach consciousness in a world spinning toward flash and fury. They never recorded their version of Rumors, but the silence was loud. Fans who had followed them since the Channel One days knew the omission wasn't technical. It was emotional. A wound left alone to scar over time. It's easy to paint Gregory Isaacs as a villain in this narrative. But life is rarely so simple. Isaacs never claimed the song was his. He never boasted about snatching it from the Mighty Diamonds. In fact, he seemed to carry the song with a kind of reverence, as if he knew it wasn't entirely his to own. But once it was out in the world, there was no pulling it back. The Mighty Diamonds would go on to receive honors for their contributions to reggae. Their voices, rich, layered, righteous, never faded. But the hurt lingered in fans' memories. Every time Gregory Isaacs' version of Rumors played, it sparked a flicker of what-ifs. What if it had been Tabby's voice leading the chorus? What if Bunny had harmonized that pain? What if the world had heard the Mighty Diamonds' truth instead of Gregory Isaacs' defiance? In some interviews, Clark hinted at regret, not about choosing Isaacs, but about how the narrative played out. He knew the industry had a cruel way of rewriting history. People forget the writers. They forget the original intent. All that remains is the version that caught fire. And Gregory Isaacs, with all his flaws, was born to burn. But betrayal isn't always active. As the reggae world continues to evolve, Rumors remains a time capsule, not just of the 1980s sound, but of everything buried beneath it, the egos, the genius, the choices. It is a song that made Gregory Isaacs unforgettable. And in doing so, it made the Mighty Diamonds unforgettable in a different way, not for what they sang, but for what they didn't. Whose side are you on, Gregory Isaacs or the Mighty Diamonds? Was it theft or destiny? Drop your verdict in the comments. And if you want more explosive music industry secrets, subscribe now, because the real stories, they're never in the headlines.